Welcome to the webinar on redefining smart infrastructure with edge computing, AI, and smart metering. I am Mansi Taneja from Economic Times Telecom, and it's a pleasure to have such a distinguished panel of speakers joining us today to discuss a topic that sits at the heart of India's digital and infrastructure transformation. We have with us Mr. Gaurav, who is CEO of Gas Business at Polaris, Mr. Anup, who is CTO of Cubo Hero Electronics, Mr. Kevin, who is the PTM Director at Fibocom. Before starting, let me give you a context. We are seeing a clear shift across sectors: energy, utilities, telecom, and urban infrastructure. From centralized reactive systems to intelligent, distributed, and real time infrastructure. Edge computing combined with AI and advanced connectivity is becoming foundational to how we manage power, data, assets, and services at scale. Smart infrastructure today is not just about digitization, it is about decision making at the edge. Whether it is smart metering, grid intelligence, or mission critical networks, the challenge before us is how to move from pilots to large scale to deployments that deliver value. Let me begin by asking all the panelists, how do you think edge computing and AI are reshaping smart infrastructure architectures? Let's start with you, Gaurav.
Yeah, hi, thanks, Mansi. Thanks for inviting me. And so, from a AI and smart metering perspective, there are multiple use cases which are there. Uh, there is one use case which we are currently working on, and we have developed a product which is actually working on a live case. We have installed around 60,000 smart meters in Ladakh, and we have created a product which we call as Project Hubble, which sits on top of this database. And what we have devised is like a chat GPT based interaction where we actually give a question, a query based question to the system, and the system then turns out analysis of what the issue is, and also not just gives the solutions, but it's also kind of overwrites or takes action in terms of overwriting the databases also. So uh, what we have seen is it kind of increases the just take an example. A DT meter typically, if you look at it, the tagging with the meters is incorrect because there's a physical tagging which happens. The DT meter is sometimes showing 130%, 150% efficiency. But when we ran this Project Hubble model on top of it, what we realized is that there were a lot of incorrect tagging which was happening, because of which the efficiency was so high. But when we actually corrected everything, it came down to 88%, which was a true reflection of the DT meter versus consumer meter mapping. So there are multiple use cases, and I think this is just one of it. We are also working on use of AI, although it's still in the development stage, but use of AI where the meter itself takes certain decisions basis whatever predetermined variables are which are there. So determined basis that it can actually decide and not necessarily communicate with the heading system to kind of take decisions. So more of an independent decision making which is happening. So there are multiple use cases, at least for smart meters, which I can cite.
Right. Anup, could you elaborate on the same question? How edge computing and AI are reshaping smart infrastructure architectures?
Thanks, Mansi, for the question. Actually, we are in pretty exciting times. Every day you wake up and technology is moved ahead, right? And the thing driving it is essentially the large language models. And we are very excited about it because there were a lot of use cases we had conceived because we are in consumer cameras. We also give security to dash cams which are connected. But now using these models, which are essentially enabled using frameworks like Agentic and RAG, we can also give meaningful understanding of to user what's happening in his house. We can give them alerts because these models can be used to describe what is really happening. So previously, what used to happen, Mansi, is that you had edge AI, okay, and which could do some sort of person detection, pet detection, car detection. But in order to identify the intent, why something is happening, And there are certain scenarios, like for example, fire, or the fact that someone has come landed up in your doorstep with a stick or some a hockey stick or something, right? These are not models which these are not use cases which you can really pack into the edge. So the way we are looking at this entire model shifting is the edge works as a sieve, identifying that something of import has happened, combine it with cloud analytics using the LLM models and agentics to describe what is happening. This brings real value to the customer. For example, you have a dash cam, right? And your driver is driving it. Okay, so one thing is to show that he was over speeding, but to actually find out that he is doing rash driving. Now we are using LLMs to describe how the car is getting driven. Okay, so a combination of edge connectivity, because this is a case of mobility connectivity and compute, which is over a period of time, last 1 year, is kind of become affordable. It can be behind a paywall. You give value to the customer. So your cameras are not just hours and hours of recording. Now they give meaningful insight to what is happening, let's say to your home or to a shop. How when is that people are coming to your shop? What kind of where are they? What racks they're looking for? What kind of products attract them? A lot of analytics in a combination of two happening, and it's changing day by day, right? And we are happy to ride that wave in our products.
Great, interesting insights. Kevin, what are your thoughts on the same?
So basically, as alongside, I think basically for this AI should be it's become core infrastructure, because we Fibocom is mainly provide the cellular connectivity service, module service for Indian markets. So we know that for those lots of vertical like energy, fintech, and mobilities, the global is like the connectivity in India is no longer an add-on. It has become core infrastructure. Because before we say it's called Internet of Things. Actually, after the AI add-on, it's now has been intelligence of things. So every vertical should have this AI capability and connectivity capability to have big benefits to make it more powerful efficient. So in energy and utilities, we say that demand is driven by national scale rollouts. Customer care less about the individual device specifications and more about long-term reliability, battery life, and ability to manage millions of endpoints consistent over many years. And in some other vertical like fintech, especially Soundbox and post deployments, uptime and transaction reliability are the top priorities. So in those vertical, with Fibocom has bring a clear perspective shaped by large-scale deployments. We also place strong emphasis on listening to Indian customers to ensure our cellular and GIS solution truly stress this vertical for the markets. Thanks.
Right. So, everyone mentioned about use cases, what it's expected and the kind of, new developments that we'll see. But I just want to understand from, each one of you, what are the key barriers to scaling this? We're talking about trials, but when will the deployments go live and what needs to change, technologically or at the policy level, which will help us move faster? Gaurav, would you like to start first?
Yeah, so from a smart meter perspective, I mean, of course, challenge that we face. If I leave aside the technology part, I think that's more of a solvable and a easier problem to solve. But there is a lot of issue on the ground in terms of implementation of smart meters that we are facing, and there's also customer related perspectives, and I say perspective because most of the time these are with proper training and proper education you can kind of change it. But yeah, from a hardcore asset implementation perspective, there are challenges which we face on the field, largely implementation and execution related challenges. What we have also faced some challenges on the field are relating to communication. And as of now, of course, we have both electricity smart meters and gas smart meters. On electricity, we have both RF and cellular meters. For gas meter, we are using specifically NB-IoT for a specific reason. And what we have observed is that there are areas which are not connected, and there are black spots which are there, which kind of create a issue with with data collection and all. Of course, we do try to find alternatives for that, for sure. And we have developed alternative communication technologies there. But one of the major things that we find is a potential barrier is the fact that if you don't receive data, then that becomes a challenge on the cloud, because as of now, a lot of decision making is on the cloud, and the meter is basically executing those commands. But yes, going forward, let's say like we discussed about AI on edge, if that happens, a lot of the meter gets trained on certain parameters, and over a period of time can actually take certain decisions on its own, which can reduce the need for communication the way we typically see is required today. So these are a few things which come to my mind in terms of typical challenges.
Right. Anup, your thoughts on this?
I think Gaurav has dwelt upon the fact that connectivity is not ubiquitous in India. Now, what happens is there are black spots, there are areas which are even in metro cities where the signal strength, especially if it's cellular IoT, is less. Now, from a customer point of view, it's difficult to explain this to the customer, because usually what happens is maybe the phone works at that point, your device is on 4G, not necessarily on a 5G, and that doesn't work. Now, the thing, what we have realized is education. So previously, we used to just say signal not there, whatnot. So now we are trying to educate, and we are also collecting data, because typical consumer, our consumers, not necessarily enterprise, the roads they traverse, office to back. Now we are collecting data points where they are getting into black spots, right? So we know that the signal strength is going to be bad. So the cloud knows it, because at that point, the device does not connect, right? So one of the approaches we had was just for the connectivity issues, create a high availability platform, which means that we have come up with an architecture which says it's better to degrade the services than providing no services. It can't be a zero sum game, 0 or 1, because this is not what the customer expects. Because the same device is also doing video, it's also tracking, it's giving a location. So we have given a graded function to match up with the thing and collect data so that we can inform him, this is the black spot, black patch, and so on and so forth. Now, on the AI, I think the biggest concern for adoption is privacy, which the customer has. And how does a brand convey the fact that I am taking your images, I am processing it, and I will ensure that your data will be, your privacy will be monitored. I'll give a simple example, which is easy to implement technology-wise, something called baby monitor, right? So we have a concept where we can actually, India doesn't have cradles, right? So the cradle concept is a Western concept. In India, kids are put on beds. We have the capability to do a virtual cradle, monitor whether the baby is, virtual cradle is just a rectangle around the cradle, inform the mother when the baby gets out. But how do you do that, giving assurance to our consumer that the privacy of their data, how we monitor it, is this data going to be leaked or not? It's very important. And for that, you need to create a lot of frameworks within your company, the way you design it to ensure privacy. I think all these LLMs' biggest concern, which has been rebounding, is privacy. I interact with the system is profiling me. Can this data be used by someone else? And in our case, it's video. We're not even asking the person to talk to us. So creating frameworks, ensuring that it is auditable, ensuring that the data is kept encrypted in such a manner that even people within my company don't have access to it. So creating that framework, assuring people that that's a journey, right? So assuring people that the data privacy is maintained while we can give real value by doing a lot of data analytics, image analytics at the cloud as well as on the edge. So I think this journey a lot of brands have to go through, and
Mhm.
that is a crucible, ensuring that the customer's privacy is maintained while you do all of this LLMs, agentics, and so on and so forth.
Right, right. Kevin, what are your thoughts on the key barriers?
You mean the key value of the edge AI?
Yeah, how to scale edge computing, AI, probably, the initiatives or the things which can make us move faster.
I think Glove and Graph, they already say what's the AI benefits, but for sure the AGI seems like can solve those problems. But when they say let's still a lot of challenges. For example, the chipsets infrastructure, the cost maybe is too high. For example, if we use the NVIDIA chip, it's developed for AIDC, it's too expensive. And if we use the Qualcomm Snapdragon series, they are developed for mobile phone. Actually, for some of vertical, for example, let's metering like payments, those vertical is just use very small I think 0.5 billion parameters. That should be enough. So in that case, we don't need so high power computing edge chipsets. So in that case, actually with Fibocom is because we focus on IoT, so we are trying to do something for these challenges. For example, we have our own AI stack solutions. We try to adopt all the AI open source AI mode like Qn, like DeepSeek, to all the some lightweight chipsets. So in that case, customer just need a very low cost chip to run a very vertical mode for metering, just for payments, just for IoT. In that case, can save the cost and also can solve the challenge of what other pennies they said. So this is what we do. And we are also, let's discuss with our partners like Qualcomm. We try to ask them to cost down to do a lightweight SoC to run this edge AI for IoT, not just use the mobile phone SoC or the automotive SoC to this IoT. This is what we are discussing with Qualcomm and Unisoc other partners.
Right, right. And from from your Fibocom's perspective, how do you see the demand evolving for cellular IoT across various sectors, energy, fintech, and mobility?
Yeah, this is we said. So for this connectivity is already India is no longer it's add-on, it has become core infrastructure. Actually, I just also meet one thing for the AI because if you have this connectivity basis, but yes, some operation the single is weakless, but we can use mesh network. So we have Bluetooth, we have Wi-Fi to mesh those weakless network to the core cooperating computing, and then we go to the connectivity. Because for sure, if you use a very powerful LM, for sure the cloud is the best. So this is what we say, and so in that case, we say the cellular is growing year by year for India markets. So that's why we want to do a long-term investment. For example, smart metering, for example, the tracking device, for example, the post terminals. Its cloud is already the growth is close tied to regulation accountabilities, and also the GNSS service is also very important. So this is what we see in the market.
Right, right. Let's move on to other panelists. Gaurav, gas distribution and utilities companies, as everyone knows, they are getting more digital. But I just want to understand, how is cellular IoT helping utilities improve safety, monitoring, and operational efficiency? Anup did mention a bit about privacy and security, but what's your take on that?
Yeah, so I mean, before I kind of deep dive into gas and gas smart metering, one major distinction between gas and, or actually two major distinctions between gas and electricity meters is, A, gas meters get installed almost anywhere. You never know. It's either outside the house or it's sometimes inside the kitchen, sometimes even the cabinet of the kitchen. So it becomes challenging in terms of the positioning of the meter. Unlike electricity, where it will largely be outside the house. So the positioning, the physical positioning of the meter is quite unpredictable, especially in India. And that creates certain challenges in terms of connectivity. And the other thing is the fact that gas meters are battery powered. And typical expectations of companies, distribution utilities, is that they should last for 10 years, and which basically means that the entire component selection, feature selection, everything has to be done in such a manner that the battery power is conserved. So from that perspective, we did a lot of analysis, and what we did conclude is NB-IoT is within the cellular technology the best and most energy efficient in terms of battery power technology which we can use. It also it's better than from a battery consumption perspective, better than, let's say, 4G, 5G networks. And from a relative positioning of the meter physically, since it's a narrow band, the range is much higher. And therefore, and even penetrate walls, which is a major requirement for communication for gas meters specifically. So given all those specifics of the sector, we went ahead with NB-IoT solutioning with a fallback, of course, of a Bluetooth communication protocol, which basically is more like a secondary fallback communication. So that's the choice of NB-IoT. In terms of how it is helping utilities to kind of be more efficient and all, is that, look, till now, I mean, there are lots of sensors which have been built in. If we talk from a safety perspective, in our meters we have a temperature sensor, so we know when the temperature is rising or going down or whatever. So we have a tilt sensor which basically senses if the meter is getting, if there is any tamper, if somebody is trying to take out the meter, there will be a tilt, and if the tilt happens, then which essentially captures the vibrations, and it kind of gives an alert to the engine system and automatically shuts off the valve. So these are, I mean, there can be others also. There can be a pressure sensor also built into it to see if there is any change in pressure, which could again be alerted to the gas distribution companies. And the meter is intelligent enough or smart enough to take decisions on its own. So if it senses that, let's say, the tilt has been activated, it would communicate to the head-end system and even switch off the valve on its own. So we have developed a meter which has a lot of edge intelligence. Even the prepaid intelligence is built into the edge, so that even if the meter is not communicating with the head-end system, it can switch off the valve if the balance is low. So from a safety perspective, I think this is an important part. I think the other part which you did mention was monitoring. Yes, earlier, I mean, I'm sure if you are staying in a metro city which has gas connectivity, the person collecting the readings would come once in every 2 months. If you're in Bombay, it will come once in 3 months. So just imagine the data, the lag with which you are getting the data is a major lag, right? So you have different segments of gas utilities, customer segments. And this segment, which is maybe 10-15% of your total portfolio in terms of volumes, you don't get the readings on time. So how can you balance your portfolio, right? Whatever you bought, whatever you sold, how will you be able to balance it? And by the time you get the data, it's already too late. So I think from a monitoring perspective, the data helps you to kind of manage the energy balancing or energy accounting, so to say. And of course, from an operational efficiency perspective, since no manpower is required to go to the field, the data is coming to you on a almost real time basis. In gas, it comes once in a day, but you do get data on a daily basis, and helps you to kind of reduce your manpower on the field, focus only on where the problem is coming, and be more proactive in terms of servicing or solving the problems of the field. So that kind of improves the overall operational efficiencies of the CGDs.
Right, right. But how do you think what changes do you think can be done to overcome all this in the ecosystem? Do you think AI will help you in that in a big way?
See, as I said, one major advantage that I see or use case for AI I see is that nobody wants to see dashboards. I mean, today, there was an age where data analytics and dashboard was the buzzword, and everybody was infatuated with data dashboards and all, right? And I've been in the consulting world, and I've sold such products in the past where you have that that was the new thing at that point of time. Now there is so much data, and trust me, there are 30,000 gas meters which we have installed. There's so much data which is coming, but honestly, CGD companies don't have so much time and bandwidth to actually look at the data. So the data needs to make sense. There has to be insights need to be gathered from the data, and for that, I think AI has a major role to play. And just imagine the utility, people in the utility company just typing queries as to give me. I mean, there are multiple things that you can just simply type and you can get the answers without having to refer to 10 different dashboards, and then also it's not sure. Then also you're not sure what's the final solution. So I think AI will definitely help in making sense of the data, and that's where people are moving towards. I mean, to be honest, personally, me, maybe 6 months before, I was also on the other side. What can AI do, and how it can help? But and now AI, even for my day-to-day work, I'm using AI in a big manner. So slowly that change will come, and people will adopt it, and that will become like a normal thing to do.
Right, right. That's very interesting. Anup, what's your take on this? How IoT will enhance reliability and intelligence in smart home and building solutions?
Okay, so from being just sensors giving some data like light is on, light is off, so much of power. One of the big things about the fact that you have a data pipeline lake, you are doing analytics on it, is predictive maintenance. So you can start predicting. So you have a product in field as a consumer product. You have a warranty associated with it. You have a customer experience associated with it. So how we are using is now, he doesn't like dashboards, but now we have dashboards which basically which shows us out of our 2 million plus cameras installed, 1 million dash cams installed, which of these dash cams are actually working properly, where there's a thumbs up and we expect the customer is. So obviously we don't expect customers to get excited about our cameras, but the fact is the cameras are not giving any pain point to the thing because the connectivity is fine and so on and so forth. We are able to actually find out which cameras are not properly connected, and now we are communicating to the consumer saying that your connectivity is a problem. So this also gives back to the customer that, okay, I need to fix something within my house, I have to probably move the location of the camera. In some cases that is not the case, he puts a repeater and so on and so forth. But what happens then is the customer understands that he is dealing with a smart company who's not just selling them a product, right? It is also ensuring that the installation is correct, the way, and it's also monitoring the health of the camera and is proactively informing them. So the entire consumer experience changes. But what's more important is the you know the mecca of consumer electronic products is to get a service model and a service running, where a customer is ready to pay you for a service, right? So what has happened with cellular IoT is, and with the concept of end-to-end SIMs, that when we bundled either a SIM or a M2M SIM inside that, we own the service. So for the camera, and obviously then the product is plug and play. So you take our product, you take our app, and you're done. The KYC happens on the app, everything is done. So in 10 minutes, your product is ready to go. That's the model we want to go to. And then you, as you are the end-to-end service provider, you firstly, your relationship is, the customer's relationship is not with the Airtel or a Geo. It is with Cubo, who's of course using services of multiple operators. But we are also getting dashboards on how these SIMs are working, how the connectivity is working. So we own the service. We are able to overlay use cases on top of it. And one of the interesting things which have happened is a lot of data centers have come up in India. That's essentially a push by the current regime, and the cost prices are falling down. So cost of compute, cost of cloud storage, the cost which you were paying maybe 2 years back because you had major, let's put it Western, large global MNCs giving data centers, as compared to the new Indian ones, the cost of computes are almost come down to one fourth, which then means that you can really add more value both in AI as well as storage. You are able to store its data for a longer period because we typically store stuff like video recording. So we are able to give them better storage, ensure that there is DR kept in a different thing at a nominal price. So the landscape is changing, and it is changing very rapidly. Now, as Kevin was saying, one of the most important thing is the cost of the product at the edge has to come down. You can't just push everything to the cloud and then expect these are not things which are you know they won't make business sense for a consumer. So a lot of a combination of what you can bring to the edge, and that's changing. All the products now coming on cameras have a lot of tops. Tops is the capability to do run models at the edge. So they're getting packed with tops, which means that you can actually run a lot of models at the edge, including SLMs. You can run voice models, you can do speech to text, because practically an IoT use case is a subset of the actual ChatGPT use case, right? So
Right.
you are not going to ask a camera about how I look. You are going to ask a camera of who was there in the last 3 days, or like was there a threat in last 3 days? Was there overspeeding in last 3 days? So a lot of edge computing has come. A lot of SoC manufacturers across, like you mentioned, Qualcomm. There are a few more like Novotech and so on and so forth, where they have added a lot of edge computing. The cost in the cloud in India specifically has drastically come down. A combination of this is what the brands have to pick up, because the play field is open. You have to reimagine the services and take lead on this.
Right, right. But in continuation to this only, what are the biggest challenges that you face in designing secure, always own IoT systems for Indian consumers, especially across varied network conditions? Since you said, consumers are not bothered which service provider you are using.
So actually, coming to the first topic of security, security is by design. You can't really go about doing this as an afterthought. So security starts from the device. So the device has to be tamper-proof. I think all of three of us agree. We can't expect Gaurav's gas meters to be tampered. The cameras can't be tampered. It can't be side-loaded. So it has to be tamper-proof. That means the software has to be developed in a secure manner. It's called a root of trust zones. Now, so once you have done that, the next part is how do you make sure the connectivity to the enterprise platform is secure. There are standard playbooks for it. So you have to ensure that everything is TLS secured. You are not using open channels. You're encrypting every time data passes. You're passing data to internet. Now with cellular IoT, what happens is you have the option as an M2M to provide use APNs. Now APNs give another layer of security on top of public networks, right? Now you are giving this to the customer as an M2M service provider, which means that their data is not traversing practically through virtually. It's actually virtually through public networks. It is secure, and it is secure up to the point it comes to a cloud. And on cloud, you have to ensure that your data is encrypted, your databases are encrypted, what you're sending to third-party platforms, right? When I say analytics and so on and so forth, you are ensuring that there's obfuscation. Okay, so there is obfuscation of data so that consumer data is not traveling to third-party platforms. So you have to do this by design, right? And now it's also a requirement of the new regulations of DPDP that you have to ensure that your consumer data is secured by you. So there is a lot of onus on how you design it and how you pass this data to third-party platforms like LLMs. Of course, one option is, as Kevin said, that you can install an open release version of LLM on your own VPC cloud platforms. But in my opinion, the pace of innovation is so rapid. Pace of innovation is so rapid. The cost of the number of tokens versus the cost. Tokens are how they kind of bill you is just dipping down, right? And so this is a time where you explore and ensure that the services come up. At some point, you are also sure that this is the actual service I really want to put. Then you can bring this back into your platform because a lot of open research is happening and very useful open research happens. Now, coming back to cellular networks, I think one of the challenges, I'll come back to that, is connectivity. In our case, the connectivity problem happens when the product is mobile. There's a mobility, it's in cars, it's tractors, and so on and so forth. I think creating a robust platform which says that even if I have black spots, I am the edge is not losing any data. It preserves the integrity of data, and the first available opportunity, the data is pushed. Second, in our case, telling the customer why you are not able to talk to your device, what happened last time, using predictive paths. So if you have a path between, the paths, right? So that is where we kind of, that he's going to go from office to home. So saying that this was the point and give a peace of mind, okay, he left office. This is one of the things we do. We tell people, the family, that he has left office. And now there is a black spot in which it's not coming up, and also give the reason. And then come back and, tell them that the device is back. So design for the fact that there will be a fault. And as Gaurav said, that especially in meters and all that, in cameras also, design that there is more than one way to communicate as a back channel. For example, any device which we do with cellular, if it is a CCTV at home, should be also be able to connect to your network in case that primary facility happens, or vice versa. Cellular is the secondary, right? Depending on what kind of use case you have. So it's how you design the platform and then how you make it robust to knowing that things will fail, okay? And then use AI to also predict when they will fail, have the ability to communicate clearly to consumers that what's really happened with the device.
Great, great. So, Kevin, talking about IoT deployments, they are becoming increasingly mission critical. So, what are the key connectivity, security consideration that enterprises should plan, at the hardware level?
Yeah, this is I think Love said well. So I think the security must be built in from day one because this includes secure bots, hardware-backed case storage, authenticated firmware updates, and a clear device uh, identity strategy, not just security add later as a patch. So scalability also need to be planned from the start. However, hardware platform must support remote diagnostic, large-scale OTA updates, and long life cycle management because operation cost quickly outweighs initial hardware cost at scale. And let's say some of the most valuable lessons come from understanding why deployments struggle in particle. We actively encourage customers to ship both success story and pain points that may have experience with existing solutions or other suppliers because those insights directly shape how we design and support our platform. So when IoT deployment become mission critical, hardware decisions have long-term consequences. Thank you.
Right, right. Also, what are the trends do you think that will impact India's smart infrastructure ecosystem over the next few years?
I think several strengths stand out, but they all point in a similar direction. One is the continuous scale up of the licensing infrastructure projects, especially in smart energy and digital payments, while deployments were measured in hundreds of thousands of millions of devices. So now everybody talk about AI. I think everybody knows the most important AI is energy, because low energy the AI cannot run. So and the last thing is data. So that's why those smart energy can have build on the energy, and the digital payment actually can have a lot of data to the cloud. Another is that the localization and the components include LAVIC, data security, and supply chain resilience, which are increasingly shaping technology design in India. A third trend is the shift towards life cycle focused design. Customers are no longer optimizing only for upfront cost, but for total cost of ownership, including uptime, maintenance, and long-term support. So from our perspective, our India strategy is aligned with this trend through solution-ready products, strong local partners, and a focus on reliable, scalable deployment. But we also believe the most successful outcome will come from close cooperation with industry leaders who understand India's reality deeply.
Great, great, very interesting. Let me, before moving ahead, let me ask the audience to share their questions in the chat box. We'll take questions from the speakers at the end of the session. So moving on, Gaurav and Anup, I just want to ask you both, what will be the, one smart infrastructure use case in India that will scale fastest in the next 2-3 years?
I think uh, one has already happened. I think India is one of the success story, which is digital payment, and it has revolutionized the way from smallest trader to uh, you know uh, hypermarkets have been operating. So that phenomenon has already happened. Second is there is this change on EV. At least I'm just coming to again electronics and hardware. The EV is not just a car. Okay, EV is a platform, and for a successful deployment of EV, there has to be energy planning. There has to be the fact that there has to be predictive where he has to fill it, right? Planning of infrastructure. So all of this requires not just planning; it also requires a lot of analytics to figure out where you're going to put the charging stations, how will the car reach there, because this is one of the problems with EV. There's this whole charge uh, hysteria, right? The car, it's not like petrol, you just walk into the stuff like that. So infrastructure for rapid charging, infrastructure which could also be battery replacements, emergency battery replacements, uh, platform as an EV, and the fact that finally we are going to go to the world of driverless cars. This is going to power the entire cellular mobility, AI, cloud, and this is a big thing. And that it has a lot of moving parts. So it has the car, the processors at the edge, it has the 5G, 6G, 7G infrastructure connecting it to the cloud, compute on the cloud. The cloud then sees all the cars on the road, planning of the trip, route maps, and all of this is a service, right, at the end of it. And it's a huge business, and there are a lot of players will play part of it. And I think EV driverless cars are going to be the next big thing.
Gaurav, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I think Anu covered most of the exciting stuff. So I'm left with what I deal with on a daily basis, which is
Maybe
smart
something to
meters.
do with your sector.
So yeah. So in a way, good. But yeah, I mean the smart metering sector. If you look at it, even if I talk of electricity meters, we already have a 25 crore meter target that we need to connect over the next 2-3 years or maybe more. And out of which only 5 crores have just happened. So we have just scratched the surface. So there's a huge infra which needs to be kind of added. And this is the last mile asset, right? Last mile connectivity that we are talking of, and that digitization of that last mile infrastructure. I think one is, of course, this gas is behind electricity meter for maybe 7, 8, 10 years. It will catch up over a period of time, but yeah, the pace will be a little much slower, largely because of the fact that while for electricity meter for electricity there's no other alternative. The customer, if the government mandates to use smart meter, they can't go for something else. In gas, a lot of effort goes in convincing the customer to actually take a connection because they already have an alternative of LPG. So, gas is a bit behind, but I think, yes, over a period of time, once the basic infrastructure has been laid down by the gas distribution company, I think at that point of time, there will be a exponential growth which will happen even for gas. I think what to be more exciting, not in terms of the, not specifically in terms of what you mentioned about cellular and use of cellular use cases, but of course, meter is also a means to a larger end. Smart meters. It is giving data for certain things, right? So in Western world, this data is then used for load balancing, demand planning, demand forecasting, so that moving people to non-peak hours, giving incentives for them to move to non-peak hours. So I think a lot of efforts, an exciting part will be once these meters have been established at some scale, then the use cases of using that data to actually use it for the intended purpose, which is what it is. So as of now, we are on a stage where we are setting the infra, setting the stage, setting the foundation for digitization benefits to accrue. I think the next stage would be actually solutions designed to actually get those benefits. And that's the vision of the government of India as well.
Right. But what, according to you, is the biggest bottleneck here? Technology, talent, or the policy?
If I answer it from a gas industry perspective, I would say some policy level inputs are required for basically pushing the growth of gas adoption of smart gas meters. And there are challenges, of course, in terms of laying infrastructure, which is a challenge which gas distribution companies face today. Obtaining right of way, right of use of laying a pipeline is a major challenge. It takes years. There is no standardization across the country, and that has been a long pending demand of the utilities to have a standardized policy for ROU, a grant. I think the other thing is, of course, the communication part, which is a challenge and which kind of needs to be overcome. And I think over a period of time, as the fiberization increases, the 5Gs and the world and everything keeps happening, I think most of those issues will, over a period of time, get over. Because this is not like a permanent problem; it's a dynamic problem. So today there is a blind spot at a location. Tomorrow it will not be there because there'll be a new tower coming up and the coverage will be there. So those kind of communication-related challenges, I think, are more transitionary. I think from a policy perspective, one major issue that we see from a gas industry perspective is conversion of customers. So customers are, not, if you are on LPG, you get subsidies. But if you are on piped natural gas, there are no subsidies. So typically what the industry has been asking is if there is a gas PNG connection in your vicinity or available or can be made available to your house, then there should be a mandatory push towards PNG. And actually it is cheaper than LPG over a period of time. So from an economic standpoint also it makes sense. So yeah, so these few things from a regulatory perspective, policy push perspective, I think can help unbundle or basically open up the sector in a manner where scale can be achieved.
Right. Anup, what according to you is the biggest bottleneck?
I think from consumer point of view, the biggest, it's not a bottleneck. Customers move when there's a killer use case. Okay. So it needs to tip it. So that there has to be a tipping point. So now when you say, why did people go to 5G, right? Why did this entire thing happen? Because there was the whole user interaction with the phones have changed, right? It's not just a method to identify or be connected to people. This is where you consume your information, your entertainment, the reels, and so on and so forth. So there is a killer use case, right? And that's how that particular use case, the 5G thing spread out, right? And of course, the operators made it affordable to people. So the thing is, it needs to be a killer use case. I think from a government point of view, I don't think nothing is preventing it, right? So the government, when we talk to Ministry of Electronics, they want to enable AI based use cases. They are supportive of AI based use cases, like even EV, right? So as I said, there has to be a big mover. When a big mover moves, lot of technologies get indigenized, and then there are side cases for it, right? So just to give one example, most of the innovation in US happened because of defense, right? And because they used to make crazy defense products, and they had a lot of creative IP which went there. So I think in our case, it probably won't be defense, but it would be something like a driverless car platform, because Indian automotive industry will face that challenge. It will build this ecosystem, which brings this all these technologies together, and with this technology is brought in robotics, because you can drive a car, you can manage a cart. If you can manage a cart, you can start doing robotics, right? So a lot of use cases will come together if a killer use case happens. I don't think. I think from a government point of view, there is a lot of push. There is a lot of funds, RDI funds. Everything has come across. It's just for the industry to pick it up and do something useful.
Great, great. Let me see the questions from the audience now. So there's one question. It says, we have seen still meters manufacturers feel smart module or 5G module in the market are overpriced or costlier, which ultimately make products cost higher. And this directly affects consumers. How can we overcome this?
Sorry, Mansi, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Yeah, it basically says that I think the products are costlier because of smart module or 5G module, and it impacts directly the consumers. How can we overcome that?
Mansi, I think there's a difference between small scale buying and large scale buying, and I don't think, I personally, because it also depends on, you don't need to buy a Mercedes to solve a smaller problem. So you also have to pick up the right module, right? So if you pick up the high end Qualcomm or Qualcomm product and then try to just solve the connectivity problem, you also have to fine tune the module to your use case. For example, if you just want NB-IoT, don't take a kitchen sink which has 4G, GPRS. Don't take a kitchen sink. Identify the module. The cost reduction happens at scale. Usually that's how the business economics happen. And as with the scale, manufacturing costs come down. It's just a cycle. So as India adopts more and more connected IoT products, the prices will come down. That's 101 of business, because competition will be there and each of them will be bringing prices up. Sorry, Gaurav, you can continue.
Yeah, in fact, very rightly put, and I'll just take it forward from what Anup said. It has happened in smart electricity sector. I mean, we started off with smart meters, which were, from a today's perspective, 3 times the cost. And over the last almost 2-3 years, the cost has substantially come down. So yes, when and of course you need a enabling policy in place to kind of make that happening also, like RDSS scheme by the Ministry of Power. It basically made it possible for aggregating demand and unleashing that potential of the smart electricity meter, and which made, as Anup was saying, overall, when your economies of scale increases, when you are buying at a much higher scale, the costs come down over a period of time. And of course, competition also has a major role to play. I mean, today only, I mean, it's probably quite topical is that today we celebrated our millionth meter rollout from our facility. And we have also installed 1 million meters in the field today, which are smart electricity meters. So that scale, which helps us to kind of reach a price point, which is then becomes competitive. So that's one. I think the other point that which needs to be seen is what is the benefits which kind of get unlocked. So the savings in terms of reduction in AT&C losses, or the theft, or the which is happening, power theft which is happening. If you arrest those things, a lot of savings get unlocked just because of that. So it's ultimately, of course, the customer pays a higher value for a smart meter as compared to a conventional meter, but the benefit which accrues out of that, or the savings which are there overall, kind of balances, if not reduces, the incremental cost.
So I'll probably ask all the panelists another question. Let's start with Kevin. Kevin, it's just like let's keep it very short since we are running out of time. So it's like maybe 1 or 2 lines. So what do you think? AI at the edge, it's a game changer or it's overhyped?
For sure, it's game changer. Now for the AI, every day we work with AM after this ChatGPT or Gemini. I work with them every day because it's really benefits for me a lot of work. So for the AGI, come back to this smart grid. As a graph set, so a lot of energy actually was wasted or was still. If we have this AI system, can maybe just save 0.1 percentage this energy, it's already been a massive number. So actually for end user, it's a good thing, right? We save energy and then customer can pay little. Like for example, in China, the new energy is the solar panel energy is now very popular. In Europe and in America, we have a lot of customers. They even sell the energy back to the grid with high price, and then they buy the energy back with low price with these AI capabilities. In that case, even the end user can use the energy for free. This is a very good benefit for the AGI. Yeah. So anyways, as Alap said, so it's mainly based on the use case. If that's the killer use case, for sure the AI is very good.
Gaurav and Anup, just a quick liner answer.
In the consumer segment, the innovations in AI, both at the edge and the cloud, enable services which allow to roll out new business models, and which is essentially the ability for consumer companies to make recurring revenue. And I think that's the most important takeaway, because it enables a lot of use cases which were theoretical in nature, but now you can enable it. You can have your video doorbell talking to you, talking to your guests, and these are not hypothetical use cases. This can happen right now, right? So new use cases, new business models, new subscription, layered on subscription. It's good time to be in consumer electronics.
Yeah, probably I'll pick what Anup earlier said. We are in exciting times because AI definitely, and AI on edge is definitely going to kind of So one way to look at it is a lot of differentiation is required from a product perspective also. And if you're able to add that wow factor to your products because of those incremental, which takes a bit of an effort. And we have seen also that if you add that incremental edge, and I'm coming back to the initial part of my discussion where I mentioned about the project Hubble, where we are using AI and creating this query-based system for the utilities to actually ask questions instead of looking at databases or reports or dashboards. I think this is the wow factor which kind of brings or distinguishes you and your products from others. So I think it is a bit of an effort. Yes, it requires a bit of a thinking in terms of making it possible with, of course, a lot of security and other aspects which Anup and Kevin mentioned. I think if you build it all together and bake it together and offer it, it will eventually help you to kind of distinguish yourself.
Great. It was very insightful discussion. We have come.
Thank you, Mansi. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you, Mansi.
Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, everyone.